One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
Hmm.
At the point where we were sending POWs that were captured in Afghanistan and other places. Very controversial topic. The world news was covering this, and here's Steve Cox in Cuba, charged with managing the media relations. Was that the first global scale issue you had to manage for the Marines?
It was, and it was quite the one to be the first one. So I'll give you just a little bit of setup. I had made my career transition. I'd gone to the public affairs school. I graduated the public affairs school. So I go down to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I'd been there, 2 months, and 9/11 hit, and and then the first U.S. forces that departed to Afghanistan, other than special forces operators, the first mainstream traditional forces came out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. So here I am, 3 months or less out of my initial training, and now I'm the Marine Corps spokesperson at Camp Lejeune for deployment of Marines to Afghanistan. And it wasn't long after that. I mean, it was several weeks after that that ultimately the decision was made that we would stand at the terrorist detention facility in Guantanamo Bay. And I was tapped to go be the public affairs officer for that. But what that meant was I was going to be the United States spokesperson
Correct.
on the ground at Guantanamo Bay. And I'll be honest with you, my reaction at the time was like, is everybody sure about this? Is this really what you all want to do? Because I've been doing this for like 4 months. Okay.
Wow.
But I'll tell you what served me well was having been an infantry officer and an enlisted artilleryman, and having done operations and having deployed and having served in the Gulf War. I had a lot more background and experience and expertise, perhaps, than I was giving myself credit for, in order to be able to then articulate what was happening at Guantanamo Bay, what the issues were, what the dynamics were, what the concerns were. But I would say this, and you touched on this up front. There was intense worldwide scrutiny when we started the terrorist detention facility there. It was principally critical of U.S. operations. There was just a negative narrative, particularly with the international media. We were offering what I'll call limited access, at least initially. It was kind of a, hey, take our word for it, which is never a good approach. But that was kind of where we were initially at the outset of that operation. And then that raised concern at, frankly, some of the highest levels of the Department of Defense and the U.S. government about the optics of what was going on at Gitmo. And the initial reaction around it was really, okay, well, let's further limit access. Okay, let's choose that course here. All right, if they don't like what we're giving them, then we won't give them anything. And unfortunately, I did not feel like that was going to be the correct tact on that. And I made the recommendation, and I made it strongly, that instead of limiting access, we need to increase access. I mean, from a media perspective, we need to let the media see it, hear it, feel it, taste it, smell it, and then report on it, to the maximum extent possible. Now, I mean, let's be honest, Guantanamo Bay was a top secret environment, so there's only so much that can be shared. But my feeling was the more we can share, the better, because I think that gives us the best chance of getting what I'll call fair reporting, out of the scenario. And ultimately, we did do that, and I will give my boss, who was the general in charge, credit, not for listening to me, but for from his leadership perspective, in terms of his calculus and his risk management, in terms of the communications course of action that I was proposing. He chose to pursue it, and he backed me up with it. And I'm not going to tell you everything was perfect and everything worked exactly like you'd like it to. But at the end of the day, when you go months down the road, we ended up with less critical coverage, more favorable coverage. We ended up with more comprehensive reporting on the operations, and I think we ultimately improved our media relations, operation, meaning just the relationship with the media. So I think we took what was a particularly intense and particularly hostile situation, and made it less intense and less hostile. By choosing a communications course of action and having leadership back up that communications course of action, we were able to materially impact the operation.